it's a powerful thing to write down positive thoughts. However you're feeling, if you write something and put it, I feel, you put it out there, you put it out in the universe, that writing becomes power. And I believe in that. I really do.
Amos Madra.
Karline Smith, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here today. Novelist, you've written some interesting books, crime novels. Of course, you're from Manchester. You're representing your hometown, Moss Side Massive, I beg your pardon, and then also Full Crew as well. Talk to us about those novels and the process in writing all these books.
Right. So I wrote Moss Side Massive probably, I started to write it round about 1992, 93. And initially, it was a short story. So I entered it into a competition and I won first prize. So then that just spurred me on. So while I was writing it, I was a single parent. I was living in Moss Side, and there were a lot of things happening. But I don't think at the time, I'm pretty sure at the time, I didn't set out to write a gangster novel. It was, and for me, it is very much the story of two brothers. So there was one brother in a gang, and the other brother obviously wasn't, and whatever the other one did in the gang was going to impact on him. So I wanted to explore that, and the story just grew legs, and I sent it off to the Express. They were based in London. They were looking for Black stories. They were looking for edgy stories. I think they just published Yardie. And so when I sent it to them, they were really enthusiastic in saying, this was fantastic. So that's how it all started. Just a short story, and then it just grew legs. And then I had to learn how to craft a novel, because although you might think you have talent, you have to learn the craft of writing a novel. And it was a steep learning curve. And then the follow-up, that didn't come about until, Moss Side Massive wasn't published until, I think, 1998. And then the follow-up was about 4 years later.
Wow, interesting. And I think there's, the timings of those books as well would have come at a time when there was a lot going on. Manchester was known as Gangchester at those times. And of course, with what was going on in Moss Side, Longside, and these areas, there was a lot of gang crime at that time. So it kind of fell in at this right time for with that whole scenario and everything else that was going on in the background.
Yeah, it wasn't at first well received. I think as a community, we were going through a lot, and I think people didn't understand why I was writing something like that. They didn't understand why. To put it in other people's words, I was airing our dirty laundry, and so they had preconceptions before it was published about what the book was about. And when I had the launch at Waterstones, it was quite a tense event, quite tense, with people, throwing questions at me. And then gradually, they began to understand that it was a story about two brothers. And in a way, I knew it had to be written from somebody living in the community. And it would be better if it was from somebody like me rather than somebody outside, because there were lots of people outside that probably could have, written a story, but it wouldn't have been heartfelt. It wouldn't have been from somebody that was experiencing it. And, I know people that have died. Very, very sad time, for a lot of us. So, yeah, it came about that time. It just was at the right time.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a lot of pressure as well to deal with, because obviously in your own personal situation, and then, of course, the pushback from the community and people thinking that, you know, you were adding wood to the fire, which you weren't. You were
Yeah,
trying to tell a story of
yeah,
two brothers. Just happened to be that this situation was similar to what was going on. And I suppose you were speaking your truth because it's what you saw.
yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
after all, your story started in 92. The book was actually finished in 92. It was just
Yeah,
that it was published at a time when
yeah,
it was, you know, the whole situation was in Manchester was at its worst.
yeah. But then I've met a lot of people that said to me, "Oh, I lived in Moss Side and I lived in those areas, and I didn't experience that." Lots of attacks from people to say, but everybody's experience was different, and that was my experience. It was my experience. It was my family's experience, and it carried on for years and years until the community, I think, got a hold of it and decided enough was enough, and we wanted it to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to your childhood and you growing up, did you always want to write? Was this something you always had an interest in, or was it something that maybe at a later stage in life you found yourself drawn to?
I think I just had a big, wild imagination. So probably from the age of 7, I was aware of books and comics. So my mum used to give me my pocket money, and I'd go across the road and I would buy 50p. 50p back then, you could buy
Everything.
tons of stuff. Yeah. So
You're
on a
rich.
Saturday, I'd run across the road and buy every single comic I could buy. And I was just lost in that world of Ginty and Misty and, Judge Dredd and, all those comics, boys' comics, girls' comics, magazines. And I think I actually consciously started writing around about the age of 10. So by the time I got to, I was in primary school, my teachers just loved my stories and I loved writing them. I loved the reaction from people when I read them out. And it just grew from there. It was just writing stories, writing plays. We put some plays on at Moss Side Youth Club, at Hideaway. I just loved it and I haven't stopped since. I think for me and a lot of writers, it's very therapeutic. It's something that you need to do. So yeah, that's where it's just come from.
And how interesting from such a young age. And of course, the support from your teachers as well. That would have
Oh,
played
they
a
were
big part.
tremendous,
Yeah.
tremendous. I had um, 2 English teachers that were, constantly encouraging me to write, and sometimes wonder where they are now. They were fantastic, and I think I was different in the family. There was nobody else like me. There was nobody else that loved books or liked to read, or you know. I remember by the time I was 13, all I wanted as a young 13-year-old female was a typewriter and a desk. Where most girls, when they're 13, they're wearing makeup and, they're into boys. Oh no, I wanted a desk and I wanted a study. And that was me. It made me happy.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it again, finding your purpose, finding who you are from an early age makes a huge difference. And of course, by exploring, being adventurous, that gave you the opportunity to again find this calling. What would you say to a lot of young people, especially teenagers, late teens, and the kind of conversation that you have with them is when you ask them what do you want to do, they just say they don't know. It's not something that they've thought about. How can they find their calling, their purpose?
I've done a lot of workshops in prison, and I met quite a few young boys that have started on the wrong path and haven't got a clue what they wanted to do. And I just encouraged them. One of the things I encouraged them to do was to get their thoughts down on paper, because even if it's a journal, every day just write something down. Write it down as if you want to change your life. I would just definitely encourage people to write and read a lot. There isn't a lot of reading going on with young people. I mean, it's all Instagram and Facebook and things like that. You know, it's kind of sad that there aren't more people reading. So definitely, I think to read more and to write more, get a journal, write down your thoughts, write down what you want to be, what you want to do, and it will come to you. You know, some people don't have an idea what they want to do at 14, 15, or 16. I didn't. I was thinking about that today. I was thinking when I was that age, all I wanted to do was write. But of course, you can't live off writing unless you're going to get, you know, a big book deal or a big Netflix deal or something like that. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but it comes to you eventually. It comes to you eventually.
Yeah, I like that. Talk to us about the power in journaling and seeing that thing manifest itself later on.
It's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing to write down positive thoughts. However you're feeling, if you write something and put it, I feel, you put it out there, you're putting it out in the universe, that writing becomes power. And I believe in that. I really do.
Wow. Wow. And that's the magic in itself, isn't it?
The magic in itself. Magic in itself.
Speaking of which, your new novel is very much different, about fairy tales, and something completely different from your previous work.
That one's actually been published. That one I self-published that one because it's totally different from a crime novel. There is an element of crime in it, but I wanted to focus on human relationships and basically what we do to each other, how we love, what we expect from love, and different types of love. And I wrote that sort of on and off over maybe 3 or 4 years. My mum passed away while I was writing it. So it was at that time I was going through a lot and it kept me going. And it was one of those stories where I think it's more character driven than it is plot driven. But again, it was something that kept me going. You know, I didn't plan it. I just thought, well, I'm going to write about 4 people and their interactions with each other. And then it just snowballed, and it's a completely different story, like you say, from my crime novels. But although I am a crime writer, I do write, I write supernatural, I also write science fiction. So I play around with the genres.
And which one do you enjoy most, and where do you see yourself focusing on more, or do you want to be able to do all the different ones in the future?
I do write a lot of general fiction short stories. I've just recently finished a story called The Captain, and it's a supernatural science fiction. You're going to laugh. Supernatural science fiction involves some detectives and a superhero. Very different from what I normally write. And that's been published in an anthology called The Cuckoo Cage by Comma Press. It's out on the 17th of February. So that's a different read. And that one took me by surprise. It was one of those that pushed me out of the comfort zone, and I enjoyed writing it. I do like writing crime. Crime is my favorite genre. I like crime and I like thriller, because even when I'm writing, I sometimes don't know what's going to happen next. And sometimes, you know, the story surprises me or shocks me. And I think if it can do that to me, I hope my reader gets the same experience. So that's what I like about crime. I like the way, you know, you solve something, or, you know, you have to, it drives you to read the next chapter and the chapter after that. General fiction is okay, but I'm more for crime and thrillers.
That is really interesting and a huge revelation there. So you literally just don't know what is going to happen next.
Sometimes I don't. I can plot a novel. I've got an idea of where, because you've got to have an idea of where you want to go with one chapter or another.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, I was saying to my manager today, I said, the novel that I'm writing now is a crime novel. And I was saying to her, do you know, I was writing this, and I said, I had no idea that somebody was going to push this woman in a canal. And then I left it at that. And then I thought, I'd better get back to the story because I don't know what's happened. So I don't know if she's drowned or she's been rescued. So yeah, you know, there's an element of surprise even when I'm writing it.
That is really interesting. So her story just went that way, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. Somebody pushed her in the canal. Is she alive? I left it at that. And the following morning, I thought, I better find out what's happened to her.
So with these books, would you want to ever see these turned into films?
Yeah, maybe one day. It's strange, isn't it, when you think about film and TV and everything is London based, that nobody would think of, you know, because it was a big thing, my side. It was, you know, the experience that we had, and, you know, there were so many losses. I'm quite surprised nobody picked up, not even my story, but that story, you know, and fictionalized it and, you know, brought it to the screen. I would love to see, especially the second book rather than the first one. The second book was, you know, sort of like, you know, a different experience of people coming out of that. And some of the boys in my story were trying to go to college and, you know, things like that. It would be nice. It would be nice to see full crew.
I think it's just a matter of time, you know, with the massive interest in what's going on in the Northwest, especially Manchester as a powerhouse, northern powerhouse.
Yeah.
And with all the people of influence now focused and located here, I suppose it'll just be a matter of time before that it gets turned into a film. And yeah, looking forward to that one. Yeah. Wow. So of course we've got these books that we've got. You've already published a few. You've got one coming out on the 17th. Do you plan it like years in advance, like this is what I want to work on? Or is it just, you know, something that, oh, let's do it, let's just go with it? How does the planning process work in terms of what you want to do with your workload?
It's a strange one because during the pandemic, when I was off work on furlough, I could have written lots of things. I could have written short stories, but it just wasn't there. There was something going on in my mind that I couldn't do anything for 2020. I mean, and that's okay, because basically what happens, I mean, to answer your question, is it comes to you when it comes to you. You know, basically you might decide, right, okay, I'm going to do, I've got an idea. I mean, I basically want to write a play this year based on one of my short stories. And I also I should have completed a collection of short stories, still there on the back burner. It's whatever appeals to you first. Whatever appeals to you first, you get on with that, and then you chip away at something else. It doesn't always flow together. It's whatever appeals to me first. I'm trying to make sense of it because...
No, it makes absolutely sense, because force negates. And if you're forcing it doesn't allow it to flow properly.
Exactly. So, because, you know, with the short story that's I've recently done, that was sort of like nearly a year, you know, waiting for me to actually get down to it, plan it and write it. And it just came overnight. It was like, okay, 4:00 in the morning, the ideas just poured. So I couldn't even write it fast enough. I've been waiting all year. That's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just learning to be patient with yourself, because if you know yourself and you know that it will come at some point, it's just allowing yourself to be relaxed, allow your mind to relax, because you know that the ideas will come to you. As you said, 4:00 in the morning, boom, it's a truckload of ideas has come, and it's like, get it to pen to paper.
Yeah.
Do you prefer just writing it directly? I know that some people dictate. Does that work for you, or do you keep a notepad near your bed so that as soon as something comes, you just put it straight pen to paper?
I usually use my iPad. I know it's a little bit like, ooh, an iPad with a pencil, but yeah, it's great because I've got a notebook on the iPad, so I'll write things down, and sometimes I can actually, lift whatever's in my iPad straight onto a computer. But I've got to do some sort of planning. I've got to have an idea at least where I'm going to go for the next chapter. So I've got the chapter written down, and then I'll just plot little scenes in that chapter, because if you don't plan sort of like 5 chapters ahead, you're going to lose it. You might not even stick to that plot. You just basically got to have some sort of guidance to take you onto that chapter and the chapter after.
Yeah, there's a lot of dedication involved there, isn't it? And focus on that one thing. Do you find it difficult to try and keep that balance with family whilst you're working on
very difficult? You would think that I mean, I've got grown-up children. I actually wrote more when my kids were little, and they've grown up, they've fled the nest. I find it difficult to write in winter when it's dark. I don't like darkness. I can't focus.
Yeah.
And there are so many distractions. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's so much going on. There's Netflix, there's Prime. There's all these things that weren't there when I started to write 20 odd years ago.
In 93, after the 6 o'clock news, there's not much else left to watch.
Oh my goodness, you have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Got to be disciplined. You've got to say, okay, 6 till 8, that's my writing time. 6 till 8, nobody come to the house, don't any disturbances. 6 till 8, and then relax and find something else to do. And the weekends, I'm just trying to, finish. I really have to finish this 4th novel this year. Yeah, I'm getting there.
You are a busy person indeed. Now, there'll be a lot of people watching, listening to this and thinking, I'd love to be doing what you do. What words of wisdom can you offer them? What advice can you give to a budding young writer who wants to do just a little bit of what you're doing?
The main advice I can give anybody is just to write. I mean, I really don't like the word aspiring writer, because I just think we're all writers. You've just got to dedicate yourself to writing. You've just got to find the time and say to yourself, right, I'm going to, do a bit tonight. You've got to progress it. So if you want to write and you want to finish something, you've got to start it and you've got to finish it at some point. So basically, just do it. That's the advice I'm giving you. You've got to do it. Just do it.
That is absolutely brilliant advice. Rather than seeing yourself as an aspiring writer, see yourself from that position
as a writer.
You are that writer who's won the New York Times bestseller or whatever else.
Yes. That's the mindset. That's the mindset. That's what you are. You are a writer. So write.
Absolutely brilliant. Wow, Karline. Oh my goodness. I think that is something that can also be transferable to anything else as well. We can apply that to pretty much anything in life. Wow, absolutely incredible. So how can we find out more about you? How can we connect with you? Are you on social media? Have you got a handle for us to connect with?
Yes, I'm on Twitter. It's the usual @Karline Smith. There aren't that many Karline Smiths. So I'm easy. You can find me quite easily. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I have got a website called Black Sapphire Press, which if you type it in, you can find me. So yeah, I'm on social media quite easily.
Fantastic. Karline, thank you so much. It's been a joy just sit down, talk to you, and just hear your wisdom. You've got an absolute wealth of wisdom, and
Thank you.
you know, it's been an absolute joy just to sit down, and I was looking forward to this interview today, and I'm so glad for it, and just want to say a huge thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.